Hey everyone, Lauren here, and I'm going to share first design layout that I've made with the January kits. So I've got a whole pile of pages that I've printed using the Gelli printing set that we've got. So we've got the Gelli plate and some acrylic paints in our mixed media kit. And I'm just going to have a little play with them. I've only got the mixed media kit to play with, so going to see what we come up with today. So I liked the combination of the blue and the pink and a bit of some white gesso. And I've got some on some white paper. I've just got a plain blue print there. And then I've also printed on some book paper as well. And now you can see I've layered the three up, and then I'm starting to work on a title. I'm just scrapbooking a photo where I was starting to get ready for a crop, my first actual in-person crop, and that was a while ago obviously. But I'm going to just put a simple title. It's going to be Crop Prep for the Win, and I am going to have a play with the paints and get them messy, just like the Gelli prints that I've got to use to layer. So it's just, and I forgot how to spell preparation. So I'm just using my paper there to spell preparation. And then I realized I don't have enough letters to spell the whole word anyway. And instead go for Crop Prep for the Win. So I really wanted just a long title because I was going to put it up the edge of the paper vertically and spell the words that way, and just mimic the fact that I've got a long piece of paper. So when I did my Gelli printing, I used a lot of A4 just copy printer paper, so it's nice and thin, not too thin, but was just plain white and a good size. It kinda is a little bit shorter than a 12 by 12, but you can get away with it in the fact that it is not so visible, or is visible enough that it's a nice little touch to have it that way. So for some reason this is taking a long time to find my title, but okay, finally we got there. So I've got it on some plastic paper. It's just from a thickers packet or an embellishment packet. It's just nice to keep that there. Now I'm just putting them close together so that, because the way I want to apply the paint, I want it to have some kind of just like brush it over without having them to be separate. I was thinking about using the roller that I use for the Gelli plate, but instead don't really bother with that. Now I'm not sharing with you how I made the Gelli prints today, but I do share them in the subscribers Facebook page. So if you are a subscriber, check out my exclusive videos, because I do share how I play with it, and then there's a few other videos this month for my design team projects that I have used the Gelli plate as well. So you'll be able to see a mixture of it, and hopefully you are subscribed because you get the goodies, but also because you'll get those extra bonuses, exclusives from us on the design team. So you can see here I've just using my spatula to add some of the paint, bit of each. I was going to use the Gelli roller, like the roller that you use for the Gelli plate, but because they're so small I figured it probably would be too big to add the colour that way, and instead used the spatula to add the colour, just the same as when you're adding colour to the Gelli plate. So I'm just going to put that to the side to dry while we stick these things down. Now this paper here was just too neat for me, so I decided to rip the edges, and then that way it lost a bit of the whiteness as well. But then it also provided this ability to layer up and have two rough edges to the side, and I didn't want to cover them all up, so I'm going to put it here on the right. So I like that. So you can see that blue one that I'm going to mount my photos on is just basically all I did was roll the paint onto the Gelli plate, and then I put the paper straight down, so you can see just the kind of coverage is a little bit different than just putting paint straight on the paper. There's a little bit of different texture going on, so that's something fun you can just have a play with that way. And then other ways you can just add the color to be mixing through, or you can add some stamps or some stencils or all kinds of things to make different texture, different imprints into the Gelli plate, the paint on the Gelli plate. And then when you print them onto the paper, you get that happening. So it's quite a really fun tool to have. Once you start creating with it to make the jelly prints, it's quite hard to stop, and so I ended up with quite a lot, which is good because now I can create with them. So I'm just going to have a little play with how they're all going to fit together. And the fact is that we got 5 colours in the mixed media kit, which means that we have a good selection and lots of colour combinations that we can use while we're doing the jelly printing, which is always a good thing. It's not limiting and has lots of potential. So just sticking it all down, just making sure it's stuck as much as possible so that it stays down. The texture of the jelly plate, not the texture, sorry, the fact that it's paint onto just normal paper and, book paper and stuff, means that the paper is a little bit ruffled and got that grungy look and that texture happening. But I don't mind that at all. If you've ever watched any of my videos, you know I don't mind. And actually, I really love texture, and I find it improves a lot of what is going on. So here we go. You can see I've just got this book paper just plain on the other side, and then on the front side, which is what I'm using for the layout, I've just done a little bit of a print with the same colours, not too much, so you can still see the fact that it's book paper and you can see that text coming through. Not because I want to read the text, but because I like the look of that as a part of it adds to like the pattern and the feature of that piece of paper as a layer. So adding some fun foam just behind this whole piece of paper, just so I can lift it up from the behind the layers and give it that bit more depth and focal point to it, because it's got my photos on it. Just simply using double-sided tape to stick it all down. Don't need to be too worried about the fact that it's I don't need wet glue it's what I'm trying to say. I don't need wet glue to stick it down. Wet glue would warp it, but also the fact is that it's not so thick of a mixed media that it's going to be a problem of it sticking. So double-sided tape is absolutely fine. So just having a little play with where it's going to go, just in case I find a different spot for it. But in fact, I keep with my original idea, and I'm going to stick it down the side. Now, because I've stuck them onto the plastic, but then I've also painted over them and I've had a bit of a play, I don't trust the adhesive on the back of them, so I'm just using my wet glue to glue them down. And you can see power of the magic of editing. We come back and the title's on there, and then I'm just doing some journaling in this little pocket of white that's on the jelly print paper of that ruffle. Just vertically putting the journaling there to mimic the title, using my pen to do a doodly border, just because it needed a bit of framing and cohesiveness that a border gives to you. Now, I go back and do a few extra lines. I think I ended up with 3 lines as a doodly border because it became a bit messy and I needed 2, and then I don't overly like even numbers, so often it'll end up with an odd number such as 3. So there's 3 lines on that doodly border. Gives it that bit of that grunginess as well that the jelly plate tends to bring. And not all the time. Jelly plates don't actually equal graffiti grunginess, but there is that kind of element that can come out when you're using the prints. So you can see here, spend forever doing the border. It's just a bit crazy. And you can see already all I've just used is some thickers and the jelly prints. We don't have to use too much more. The fact is that it makes it shine. I'm just gluing down the edges now. But it makes those jelly prints shine and then those photos shine, rather than cluttering everything up with lots of things happening on the page. That W did not want to stick, so I'm just holding it down with my ink bottle here. Ruffling up those edges just to make it the texture pop through on those printed layers. And I'm just going to have a little play with some of the extra jelly prints that I've got in the same colour tones, and I'm going to cut out some love hearts. So sorry it's off the screen a tiny little bit. I've moved my desk over Christmas. Or was it just... Oh, I can't remember. I think it was just before I moved everything. Yeah, it was just before. I moved everything in my bedroom And all my craft area changed, and I'm sort of just having to play with trying to work out how to film again, because my setup has changed a little in terms of where the positioning of the camera is. So you can see I've just roughly cut them. If you want, you can definitely draw on the back and cut them out that way to make sure they are the shape you want. But because I wasn't going for neat and tidy, I didn't need to worry too much. Just using my black pen again to put some borders on it. Some are like dotted lines, I guess, yeah. Borders, and others are full line borders. And I'm just going to put them in a couple of clusters, cascading down between the photos. That way it can draw your eye to what's happening in the photos in the middle of the page there. So I will bring in some, just washing my fingers. Lots of paint still happening around. I think I bring in some enamel dots. Oh, where's my pen out again for? Oh, that's right. So I was going to use just my normal pen so it was thinner, but then I pull out my Posca paint pen. The title wasn't just legible enough for me, so I pull out my paint pen and my black one is used, and I just go around the letters in the middle. That way you can see how much it just makes the words actually stand out, but you can still see the paint behind them without it being overwhelmed either way with either all black or all paint. And then that's going to be the end after I put on these little enamel dots just to round off, and hearts, round off the heart clusters that are going on. They were a bit bright, so they maybe in hindsight might not have been the best addition. They stand out very much now that I'm looking at them. But anyway, here's the finished product. Hope you've enjoyed that and it's inspired you to get creating. Have a great day, guys. Bye.